So who are the players that are going to get away with what has happened and the appointment of Ten Hag? Not just the Ten Hag factor, the Ineos factor, and the money and everything that we've been talking about the last few days regarding how much Ineos can actually spend. There are players that need to go, of course, but there are obviously players now that are looking at the situation, need to leave, and players that are going to get away with it. I want to talk about all of that today. We've got Double A on the show with us as well. Make sure you make him welcome. Double A, suffering with hay fever, my friend. It is a bad one, but you're battling through, mate. Cheers for coming on.
Yeah, mate, I don't know what's worse, suffering through another season of Ten Hag or this hay fever I've got in a minute. I don't hard to say. But no, mate, appreciate you having us on. It's weird not being face-to-face in 11 Central or outside Old Trafford, but no, thanks for the invite, mate.
That will come, mate. That will come in time. We'll get that. We'll get a few people around the table and have a proper old fan debate. But in the meantime, yeah, just to make it clear, like Double A isn't a massive Ten Hag outer. Just before you start going in on him or anything, he just likes to see good football and has had his problems with what he's been watching along with other fans this season. But we're not talking about Ten Hag today. We're talking about players that are now going to get away with the situation which is in hand. There's a lot of fans that have been bemoaning what's gone on with players letting Ten Hag down, players that have got away with things for a long, long time at the football club, that now, when the situation we're in with Ineos and everything going on regarding the finances of the club, who we can afford to buy, we need to sell to buy, who is going to get away with it, and who is now really looking at the situation and going, I have to just move because I don't stand a chance with Ten Hag as manager. It's quite clear we're going to get through them players and the situation that is now in front of us. Double A, obviously the news broke. We're not going to get into it too much. A lot has been said already regarding it, but we do need to move forward and look at the issue with the players right now. I've earmarked Marcus Rashford as the big problem. There's stories coming out saying that Manchester United will be open to offers for Marcus Rashford if the player pushes for a move. Now, Double A, straight away, I don't think he's going to push for a move. I don't think anyone's going to offer him the money that he's on. He's at his borrowed club. So is this just a case of the football club just putting something out there to make it look like everybody is for sale if these players want to leave? And they're just trying to cover themselves, really, with the situation they've got themselves in.
No, I think there has to be an element of truth to it, just because of the financial state we find ourselves in. You know, you read that Athletic article yesterday. They said, you know, it was, some people are saying 35 million, they were saying 50 million, but it's likely to be more now because of the Europa League. But we are, you know, strapped for cash. We do need the money, and he, as bad as his season was last season, is one of our most valuable assets. And if he can generate 70 million that can be reinvested for an Elise, or for that second striker, when you've got Garnacho, Ahmad, Anthony, I think he has to be. If an offer comes in, it has to be seriously considered. Will he go? You know, the only answer is PSG, isn't it? That's, you know, with Mbappe going, he's most likely to go there for me. The only thing I can think on his side, could he potentially go, if you read into it a little bit too much, was that tweet that he did around 1 o'clock in the morning where he says enough is enough. What does that mean? Does that mean that now, you know, he's weighing up his future because of the backlash he got for what was a terrible season for him personally? You have to look at that, and, you know, is it got to the point where he feels he might be at his borrowed club, but, you know, he does sometimes, rightly or wrongly, become the scapegoat of bad performances, or he was doing last season. So for him, is it best for his career? You know, he's not at the Euros because of this season. It is 24, 25, the best thing for him in his career, 26 now, to move on and try a new league, try a different environment for his peak years. I think if we got that 70 to 80 million pound offer, I think Manchester United have to look at it seriously and think, you know, in one fell swoop, we've, you know, doubled almost our transfer budget for the summer. So I think he has to be seriously considered. But, you know, these names ahead of him, I would think, need to be out the door before you start coming around to Marcus Rashford.
Honestly, he's top of my list, mate, above quite a lot of others after what happened last season. But I'm very opinionated on Marcus Rashford. I made it quite clear. I wasn't going to forgive him from last season. I just don't think he's going to push for a move, and I don't think the club are going to sell him, mate. I think he's got away with it. I do think he's got away with it. I know I've been bigging up like Ineos. I have to look at the situation, like you said there. You're dead right, Double A, that the financial situation that offers for players coming in do have to seriously be considered. It's an absolute joke how someone like Manchester United, with over 650 million turnover, can only afford to spend 35 million. I don't even believe that. I don't believe that. But in terms of the players that are going to get away with it, like, I don't see any of the issue players going, mate. I'm talking about the ones that have called the names out. I mean, I've called Marcus Rashford out, but you know what the obvious ones are? The obvious other ones are the likes of Luke Shaw, Maguire, Bruno Fernandes, Scott McTominay. Personally, mate, I don't think any of them players are leaving Manchester United this summer. I don't. No. I can't see anyone coming in for him. And there's no way that we can make any extra money. Are United really going to act like a football club and sell Marcus Rashford? I don't think they will. I don't think they will. I think people see Marcus Rashford. He gets away with absolute murder. Honestly, he gets praised to high heaven constantly for average performances and built up to be this absolute world-beating player that we just have never seen. The consistency's never been there with him. So I look at it and I go, if Marcus Rashford does stay at Manchester United, I think they'll be looking at that as another option as a forward. If we don't manage to stretch our budget to go and buy a forward in. I don't know where you're at with that one, mate.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's not get it confused. Personally speaking, I would like Marcus Rashford to go. Last season for me was a disgrace. You know, his behaviour, his attitude. Like I said to you before, we go and sit at Old Trafford. You know, we see him for 90 minutes. You know, the cameras don't. People watching at home, we see the body language throughout the game where you might miss that on TV. I know his heart wasn't, or his head wasn't in the fight last season. That was a million miles. You could tell that, as much as he wants to tell you on social media and in interviews that it is. You know, your body language and your actions say very different to me. I think if we get that offer, I think we have to look at it, because I think, listen, the problem is, and the reason I agree with you that he won't go, is that the club have thrown all their eggs into his basket, that he is the franchise player. He is, Mr. Manchester United now on the highest wage, who's realistically going to want to match that, only PSG. And, there's even rumours they're looking at alternatives rather than the Marcus Rashford. And I think you have to weigh into it the inconsistency of him. We don't know which Marcus Rashford we're going to get. Is it going to be the one from 22, 23, or is it going to be the one from 21, 22, or last season? And that's the problem with him. It could be either. And you can't be considered one of the best players in the league, never mind the world, when you're that inconsistent for me. And that's the problem with Marcus Rashford. And at 26, to be so inconsistent, it lends itself to be a massive problem. With your point about the other players that should go, you mentioned the three for me are in that mix with Marcus Rashford that I would like to see leave the football club. Two of them were on the chopping block last season, and we thought Ten Hag, the ruthless Ten Hag we saw in his first season, was going to get rid of these two players, McTominay and Maguire. For me, their stock has never been higher off the back of last season. It's a shame Maguire's not going to the Euros, because he would have played every single game for England. If they get far in the tournament, his price goes up again. You're not looking at a cut price 20 million for him. You're looking at 35 maybe. McTominay's the exact same. As much as I don't rate him as a footballer, as much as I don't think he's good enough for Manchester United, what he's done for Ten Hag kept him in a job, you could say, with the goals, with the constant presence in the team. His stock is, again, we was looking at, 20, 30 million maybe for him last season. You could push that to maybe 40 off the back of his season in terms of his goals and output. Again, going to play a lot for Scotland. You wouldn't expect them to do too well, but if he, does well for Scotland and he manages to pull off a result or two, again, he comes back from the Euros with his stock a little bit higher. And it's okay saying these players have done well for me this last season and helped me a lot, and they want to stay and be Manchester United players. That shouldn't be the reason to keep them. If they're not going to prolong you or push you further to your goal of how you want to play in the style you envision for Manchester United, you have to get rid of him as soon as possible. Maguire's never going to get quicker. Maguire's never going to turn quicker. McTominay's not going to become a ball-playing 8 or a 10 that can spot a pass. He's going to be a hide from the ball and pass it back and sideways as much as he can, and maybe turn it and pop in and get goals. And people say, well, he found a position for him now in that he comes on and scores. We should be looking at a second striker anyway, and the links to the strikers we've been linked with today excite me more than thinking we can keep McTominay on the bench and bring him on when we're pumping the box. And Luke Shaw's, he's an issue in itself. Injury prone. massive new contract. Sadly, for me, he's definitely not going anywhere, especially when you put into the fact that a lot of the Ten Hag sympathisers put him and Martinez as the reason why we didn't play well last season. And if we have them two, everything would have been rosy in the garden.
That is, yeah, you couldn't have said it better, mate. There, that's pretty much rounded up all of the players that everyone has been saying are an issue at United, that we're not going to move on. We have a super chat in from Mark. Cheers, Mark. He says, let's just say if Rashford plays and runs next season, we will back him. But if he has or does even one game like last year and isn't dropped, then something is wrong. Some things that have just come up, some really concerning statements from Rob Dawson from ESPN that have just been sent. Kaz has just sent these over to me. So David Brailsford is open to the idea of bringing in an external coach to work with Manchester United assistants Mitchell van der Gaag and Steve McLaren. There is a feeling that an outside coaching appointment approved by Dan Ashworth and Jason Wilcox would help quickly implement a clubbed game model rather than one determined solely by the manager. Double A, I've got a question for you straight off the back of that there. Like, what's Ten Hag doing? Does he have anything to do next season? Because all he seemed to be doing in Ineos is just making jobs and roles around him. I don't like saying that. If they're like determining like a club style, like I don't understand that. It's weird. It's like his job really doesn't consist of anything compared to what he's been doing this season off the back of things like that.
Yeah, it seemed like they're stripping everything away from him, and you know there was reports straight after the thing coming out about him staying. You know, a lot of talking saying he was going to go into these negotiations for this new contract, very bullish, and
yeah, I've seen that.
Not try and relinquish so much of the power that he was wrongly given in the first instance, and you know that could cause its own problems. And listen, I understand if you have a vision for the club from the board down, and you know certain type of player, certain type of profile, a way you want to play, but when you start meddling and micromanaging, and you know, because what's to say this coach doesn't, you know, start bumping heads with managers? Not have to be Ten Hag, any manager that's in the club, and if this coach is a mainstay and it's going to cause problems, we're back at square one, and no manager is going to want to be a part of that. I think
it's like what Kaz says there in the chat there as well. Is it like we've just appointed or kept Ten Hag on just to appease the fans, but realistically Ineos have this whole plan on the side of it? Like there's a subplot to all of this announcement of Ten Hag staying, because everything that keeps coming out, it's the old saying, isn't it? Too many chefs. It just seems to be very, very complicated, and honestly, I'm not for like it just being one man in sole control. I understand that football has changed and everything, but it seems to be overly complicating absolutely everything right now.
Yeah, there just seems, like I say, too many cooks. Look like they're going to spoil the broth. You know, but wait, you asked what would he do? He basically is going to pick the team, isn't he? Because they're trying to take the power away of transfers. And I don't think Ten Hag's the man to do that. I think whether or not it means he has a say in the coach that comes in, and they work together that way. You know, not just necessarily that's the man you're working with. Make sure you know you get along basically, and it's someone that, because apparently he's come out saying he wants McCarthy to be offered an extension as well.
So out as well.
Yeah, he's looking to keep him around. So whether it's someone in conjunction with the thoughts and okay of Ten Hag, because you know you want that harmony within the squad, the training ground, and the whole setup has to be working in one direction. And for just to be someone thrown in to Ten Hag to work with, it's not going to work, because you know nothing to say that they're going to like each other or agree with how they want the team to play. So it's worrying if they're just making these decisions and a manager has to deal with it, because most managers, if not all, you know, very egotistical, a lot of them, and that's the reason why they think they're the best manager in the world, best coach in the world. And sometimes you have to you know, please that ego of a manager.
Well, look at this here, mate. I mean, straight again, another one from Rob Dawson from ESPN that's just come out. I'll just read it out to you now. Ineos are keen to hand responsibility for recruitment to dedicated staff led by incoming sporting director Dan Ashworth, technical director Jason Wilcox, chief scout Steve Brown, and director of football negotiations Matt Hargreaves. Under the new structure, Erik ten Hag would be allowed a voice on transfers, but his redefined role would centre on managing and coaching a squad largely assembled for him. Pretty much rolls into what you just said there, right? Like, Ineos are dictators, it would seem, and they want it doing their way. This is what I said, like, with Ten Hag, it's like, this is probably why none of the managers fitted in the interview process that was going on for possible replacements for Ten Hag. I mean, Ten Hag wants to stay. There's a part of me that feels like Ten Hag doesn't know what he's got himself in for here as well. It's kind of an outlandish comment, mate, but you feel like Ineos are just saying, look, like that, no, we've kept you. You're going to play by our way. If you want to go, then there's the door.
Potentially. And you know, I think we're all waking up to exactly how Ineos are looking to work, and whether you agree with that or not, we'll have to wait and see exactly, you know, what the outcome is of that. But I think if that was the case, you have to outline that before they offer him a contract extension, and he must have agreed to it for contract extension talks to even begin, because, you know, I think before that you start to ask, well, if I'm staying, if after all these, you know, Tinder dates you've been on and none of them have worked out, if I'm the man you want to come home to.
Speed dating Ineos, yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, why am I the man? Before you even start to say I'm going to stay. Because for me, if that was me, and I've, you know, seen on social media that my partner's flirting with all the sundry and all that, I want to say, well, why are you coming back? What's made me, you know, the big attraction? Before I even start to say, well, let's buy a sofa, let's buy a dryer. Before I commit to something, I want to know why I'm your man. So maybe they've done that, and that's the reason why he said, well, listen, yeah, okay.
I look at it like this, like, we're talking about the players and the issue players at the football club. I feel like Ineos are asking Ten Hag about the players that he wants out, like the problem players. And he's probably got more of a say on the players leaving the football club and the ones that we're talking about now than he has on the players coming in. It's just another quick quote here. Recruitment work was being undertaken during Manchester United's review, and Erik ten Hag will be briefed on their progress now. So recruitment has been going on without Ten Hag knowing about it, says Rob Dawson, and he's only just finding out now. This does look like you will do as you're told, Eric, or there's the door. It looks like full-on judgment time for Erik ten Hag. This isn't as simple as he's got the job, here we go again, let's just crack on with it here. There does seem to be a lot of stipulations, a lot of different, let's just say, not so much clauses, but different angles to how Ten Hag can fail under Ineos here. To me, it looks like they're making it as difficult as possible for Erik ten Hag right now, Ineos, in the setup and how they want him to progress. It's like, what you've got is fine. Let us know what you think of what you've got. But in terms of everything going forward, it just looks like it's, there you go, you deal with this. It just like full-on international manager mode here, mate. It's like, there's the crop you can pick from. Who works best for you, and this is what has been reported before, mate, in terms of how it's going to go forward. Yeah. These players now that are at the football club, like the last chance saloon players that we talked about, Marcus Rashford has got away with it, in my opinion. I think he'll end up staying at the football club. But then you're looking at the likes of Mason Greenwood, Jadon Sancho. The fans that have said, like, get rid of these players, these are the problem, not Ten Hag. Well, Sancho and Martial and Greenwood and the so-called play problem, I think these are club problems, not team problems. And I want to get your opinion on my thought on this, because Martial, Sancho and Greenwood contributed absolutely nothing to our worst season in the Premier League. You can counter that by saying, well, if they were playing and made themselves available and weren't dickheads off the pitch, then we might have done better. But Ten Hag does not want to use these players. It's quite clear. He doesn't want to use Jadon Sancho. He doesn't see his talent on the pitch. They're an issue for the club, not the team. And I think that's the balance, Double A, in trying to figure out the best way to go forward with what we've got for Ten Hag, because that, to me, looks like the only bit of control he's got.
Yeah, and that's what I said. You know, obviously he's day to day with these players, and he has to. There has to be that line of communication where he's saying, "Listen, they don't feature. I want them gone." It can't be a case of like it has in the past, which you believe with the Maguire and McTominay, is that the manager said, "No, I don't want them. I'm happy for them to go," and the club can't get rid of them. You know, every player has to have an importance to the team. They can't be here because of they've money from the youth academy, because of the name that they've had, because of the wage that they're on. these elements of keeping a player have to disappear. And just to go back to the transfer thing, I actually don't mind that that Ineos are having this, it's our say, because if we look over the last 10, 12 years, mate, it's been an absolute shit show. Like, you can probably count on one hand the amount of, successful players we've had from the transfer dealings, from managers' input. And I don't really trust Ten Hag's talent ID. Højlund, I do like, and Martinez. I think those are the two you'd probably say Ten Hag's identified that are decent, that you keep around for a long time. The rest, Casemiro, I don't. For me, I will till the cows come home. That was not a Ten Hag signing. I don't think he's identified him, because you can't go from De Jong to Rabiot to then Casemiro and think that the managers identified all those three. Because first of all, they're all three different types of players, all very different profiles. So I think that was very much the clubs tried to get someone, a big name, as they used to do, and then they ended up looking at Casemiro. His first season was great last season. Obviously, now people want to get rid of him. But other than that, I don't really trust the names I've seen linked to us, during Ten Hag's reign. I don't trust, to go and chase Mason Mount and spend that money on him, ridiculous. To go and get Onana when we didn't need him, ridiculous. Anthony, there's so many players that we've looked and got under this manager that, screams that I don't really think, if he has the full veto, I think he ruins
we're in trouble. Yeah, because there's another story out now I want to get into. Please give the video a like, guys. Keep sharing the video and subscribing as well if you're tuning in for the first time. Almost at that 100 mark. Please keep liking, everybody. But the Matthias de Ligt story, that's just got to go by the wayside. Florian Plettenberg from Sky Germany saying that Manchester United are closely monitoring the de Ligt situation. Ten Hag is a admirer of the player. Right attitude, right mentality for Manchester United. We can forget about that going off these other reports then. And I think this summer we're going to find out which reports we can actually start believing in, AA, because if you're going off what Rob Dawson's saying, then you can forget about the likes of de Ligt coming in, because he's liked by Ten Hag. I'm with you completely. I don't like Ten Hag's talenting. Like when the names like de Ligt come up and Brobbey come up and other players that are linked to the Eredivisie, I get a sharp, steep shiver right down my spine, like, oh God, don't go there again, please, for God's sake. But I think this is going to be the change that everybody was looking for. I just don't think fans are prepared for what Ineos are about to do. Like, I think some are blinded by, this is great now, Ten Hag is staying. I think Ten Hag's going to struggle under Ineos personally. And I've gone back and I've said this, like, will Ten Hag bow down to the wishes of Ineos, because they will want to take power away and control this football club. If you have been given the responsibility of the sporting side of a football club and to make your money out of it and make your investment valuable, because I don't care what anyone says, the investment side is important to Ineos. You're not a billionaire if you go into something not looking to make money. I'm sorry, that's a load of crap from Sir Jim Radcliffe. He does want to make money out of United, that's clear. So if they're going in and saying, right, all we can control is the sporting side, are you going to trust Ten Hag in the purchases that he's bought, like you said, or the player profile? Forget about the money spent. The actual quality of the player coming in is on Ten Hag. And that has been that way with the players that have come in. So I don't think fans are prepared for what's actually going to come under Ineos AA, because there's going to be some massive, massive changes and we have to accept it. Like, this is going to be the way that this club is run. And do you know what, mate? Quickly, what I get you, all of that I've just said there, sorry, I've thrown a lot at you with that one, but Dan Ashworth seems to be the linchpin to all of this. Like, everything is going through him, and it's like waiting for him is when everything is going to start moving forward. It's weird, isn't it? Our man has got so much power that she's nowhere near the football club.
Man, I mean, he's seen as some messiah, and I've got reservations about him. I'm not going to lie. I don't think, it's almost like the second coming, the way we're waiting for this man. He's taking them to court and all this nonsense. It's he for me is probably under the most pressure because of all this waiting, but of this whole media outcry and coverage of getting him out of Newcastle to come to United. He very well has to start to produce from day one for me. And you're hearing stories about this whole Southgate stuff, and even the fact it ties into what Rob Dawson's saying there with how they want to structure it and what the manager has to say. you know, the stories about him saying he wants a yes man, basically wants someone to come under and just relent and bend the knee from day one and just be told what to do. Basically, you know, a lapdog, you know, it's pretty much come here, do as you're told, let me tickle your belly and go on your merry way and do your job. It just doesn't work. Modern football and the big managers aren't going to allow that to happen. And, you know, that very well might work at a Brighton, you know, like De Zerbi had, and, you know, probably to an extent Newcastle with Eddie Howe, I think. But at Manchester United, that's not going to fly. I'm sorry. And we can't allow ourselves to just have a yes man, you know, basically. So when you throw in front of the media, yes sir, no sir, and all that kind of nonsense, it just can't fly. But with the whole Ineos thing, I think, you know, for me they are on the clock, and as much as people laud the Barada stuff and the Wilcox and Ashworth stuff, we still don't know if it's going to work. You can talk about the names all you want. We don't know how it's going to work at Manchester United, and if they're even good enough to do the job. You know, it's all reputation at this time, and it has to work. This summer is one of the biggest summers we've had in 20 years, in terms of outgoings, incomings, and a football structure we've all begged for. And as much as we want it, you know, Ineos have to get it right. And, you know, I worry about stuff. And this whole saga around the manager, there's two ways of looking at it. One, they let it go on for far too long. Or two, they were under no pressure to say anything anyway. And, you know, the positive side, it's like good, because there was far too long. You know, you saw the reports yesterday coming out about how the players were surprised that he stayed. Good, because you shouldn't be worried about that. Just focus about your job. The only players that should worry about if the manager's staying or going is potentially the players that we might be buying. Because as a player that you're looking to buy, if I'm going to a new club, I want to know, because if they say, oh, Ten Hag's staying, it's only for a year, then I think in the back of my mind, also next year it could be a new manager that doesn't want me and I'm out the door again. You know, it needs to be clarification. The players that are here under contract, and like you said, a lot of them are thinking, well, I'm comfy anyway. I'm on a long contract.
Yeah.
It's all good for me.
They're the ones we're getting away with it, like we said at the top of the show, mate. It all comes down to these players are rubbing their hands together now because they cannot touch them. They can't. Ineos cannot touch these players right now, and they're laughing. Yeah. And it does make you feel sorry for the likes of the players that probably do deserve a bit of a contract extension and would have probably been given it, like Rashford got his, like Luke Shaw got his. But I fear for Bruno Fernandes. Hopefully this puts Bruno Fernandes to bed. But I mean, there'd be a lot of people that'd be like, well, if Bruno doesn't want a new deal, I'd be happy to sell him as well. I'd rather 10 Brunos than 10 Marcus Rashfords. Rashfords. I don't even know what that word is. It's some sort of disease, I think. But no, I'm not saying Rashford is, by the way. Don't quote me on that one. But no, like De Ligt coming in, don't see it. The players that we are linked with, honestly, I don't care. Do you know what? Double A. The one thing that's come out of this and has convinced me of, or just made me look at more importantly, is how this current crop of players now, because the manager hasn't gone, like you just said there, like the players were like, whoa, shit, we've not managed to get rid of him, what happens now? I'm intrigued to see what the players do. So the ones that we're scrutinising, like Mark just said in the super chat there, he's like, Rashford, if he starts playing well, the fans might get behind him again. Like the fans will all appreciate someone putting the effort in and trying to right the wrongs. It's just that Rashford's defiance last season upset a lot of the fan base, definitely me. It was like he wasn't doing anything wrong in his eyes, and I just wasn't having it. Players that come out and try and redeem themselves as such, and go out there and try and prove a point like, I was wrong, I'm going to show you that I can do it. I'm looking at quite a few players this season. I'm intrigued to see who goes, yes, and all of that, but the ones that stay, Double A, this is all new territory. This is like a manager for the third season. Oh my God! What this is like? This is the deep end right now. We've not gone past that. Like, it's like at the swimming pool, isn't it? You have that marker, don't they, when you're a kid? Like, you don't go past this bit, and it's like venturing into deeper waters now with a lot of these players. Like, what do we do now if something doesn't go our way? I mean, that I feel is massive this season for us fans, to see what reaction we get from the so-called problem players. Because do you know what? With Ten Hag staying, like, that's Ineos backing him in a way. And now where else does the focus go? Yeah, we're all watching what Ineos do right now in the summer, but when it starts again, everyone wants to see what they do and how they react to Ten Hag still being there.
Yeah, I think it could go one or two ways. Obviously, we know from if you believe what you hear, we know these players are quick to down tools. Or some of these players are quick to down tools and throw a manager under the bus, especially some that have been around a long time. You'd expect the players that he's purchased wouldn't be so eager to do such a thing. But then you've seen the defiance from Anthony. His stepson almost having to play left back. So for me, if Ineos have chosen Ten Hag to be their man, and I think it's vitally important that this contract extension is signed for him, because like he said, he don't want to be a lame duck. And if the players are thinking, well, he's only got 6 months left. If it gets to Christmas, he's only got 6 months left. It'll be
That's
gone.
a worry, yeah.
Don't worry. So if he's got a 2-year extension, potentially a 3rd year as well, privately, what I would be doing if I was Ineos, it's like, the players are now on the clock. The manager is staying. So even next season, we finish 9th, 10th, out of all the cups, Europa League, out of the groups. This manager is going to be here 25, 26. So that then puts it on the players to think, crap, so we can't get rid of him then by downing tools. And then that there is a kick up the arse that they need to start to perform, because more likely than not, if they don't, they're gone in that next summer or in January. So if, as much as you disagree or agree that Ten Hag's the right man, that's not really the point. It's actually the man in charge is their man, and he'll be here beyond next season. Makes these players have to look at themselves and start to perform and get on board with what not only the manager wants to do, but what the club wants to do. And that's the most important thing, is that we get away from this players playing for the manager. The players have to start playing for the club, and that's probably where this whole vision of Ineos is so massively important. It's either get on board or get on. And once they start to show that there is jeopardy to your actions, the better we will be for it in the long run.
Yeah, I feel like you're dead right in what you said there. I feel like the players that are going to survive is because there's a lot of headaches for the club, like I said, not so much team issues, but club issues that need to go. And there is an update recently just come in on Mason Greenwood while we've actually been live, which is La Gazzetta dello Sport, massive following, obviously everyone knows who they are. I've just come out and said that Juventus have reached a general agreement with Mason Greenwood and his entourage being representation. The Mason Greenwood deal to Juventus looks like it's pushing ever closer, AA, and we could actually get up nearer the £100 million part to spend if we had the 50 million that's been reported, like what Athletic said. And then we managed to sell Mason Greenwood. This is a good move for Manchester United. And the number that's being touted, I didn't think we'd be able to get that for Mason Greenwood. But with what Gazzetta is saying there, it looks like personal terms have been agreed. He definitely wants to move to Juventus. That collaborates with what was said earlier on regarding Mason Greenwood still wants to move to Italy rather than stay in Spain. So this is all moving quite quickly now, which is good. 40 to 50 million for Mason. Are you looking at sales like that? Yes, as good as it is and what needs to happen. Are you looking at investing that money back into the same position? Because obviously it's someone we're missing there. Or, first of all, are you looking at that to go, say, into midfield or defence where it clearly needs reinvesting in first? How would you go at it?
It's a good question, really. I think, yeah. So that 40 to 50 million is brilliant. A lot more, because the first number I had was about 30 million to Juventus.
Yeah, you're snatching their hand off, aren't you?
Yeah, so 40 to 50. Whether that's including add-ons, you probably imagine it is. Again, it's a brilliant deal. When you consider when he went to Getafe, was he a 15 to 20 million pound player? So, having that decent season with them, almost double his price, is perfect for Manchester United. Again, not a player that I feel could not even come back to United, could come back to the Premier League anytime soon anyway. So it's best for all parties that he goes. Good project there with Thiago Motta going to Juventus. I'm a bit annoyed because I do like Juventus and was planning to go and watch him next season. Will I do that with Mason Greenwood there personally? Probably not. But anyway, but reinvesting it, I think for me, it's so important we go and reinvest it up top as well. I think, the midfield, massively, Jan Neves, amazing player. Hopefully it's someone we get. The centre-back issue is massive, as well as a left-back. But I think, the fact we scored so little goals last season, and we need that creative spark up top, whether that's Elise or it's one of the strikers we were linked with today. I think, for what we could, 50 million, we could go and get one of them strikers easily. And I think that helps us massively. So for me, I would probably just reinvest it straight into the position that we're losing. Obviously, we've got another option to sell in one of them wide positions as well in Sancho. So, hopefully that comes to fruition as well, rather than another loan. Don't think that helps anyone, the player or us. So, it's important if we can get 30 to 40 for him as well. That's massively brilliant for what we want to do in the transfer market. But Mason Greenwood going for that amount of money is perfect, and getting a striker. You're seeing, is it Xerxes, David, or Maximilian? Is it
Tony and the other one?
Tony as well, yeah.
Yeah, the German striker.
27 million, I think 34 for Xerxes. They'd be my two. You've still got money left over there to reinvest in the squad anyway. So I would reinvest it to a striker straight away.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with that in a way, because I know we can go out and buy a defender right now. We can go out and invest the Mason Greenwood money in a department that we need, the centre forward, and then concentrate on selling everything else to make that central midfield signing. I think that is massively important, because they're the three areas where we need absolute quality. The spine of the side is definitely where the investment needs to go. I mean, you look at the younger lads coming through as well, like AA. It does look like they're the ones that are going to be predominantly on the tour because of the Euros. There's not going to be many first-team players probably out there on the tour at a push. They may be joining it late. So there's no guarantee who's going to play there. We've got the younger players coming through, so good to see them. I think Ten Hag has actually alluded to that already in many interviews, that we are going to get the chance to see for the first time a few of these up-and-coming young under-18 players as well. But it is important that they come through into a team which is working well and gives them the best opportunity. And I think examples can be made of certain players. Like you said, like the players that have been letting us down for years actually turn up right now and see that, you know what, you don't get away with it anymore. I mean, this is like the perfect environment for these kids to come through into. And you know what, in a way, it's kind of good that Ten Hag is there for that, because it will be seen that, you know what, in an age of players just getting away with it, managers being sacked every couple of seasons, now that we've got backing behind one of them in Ten Hag, that these younger players coming through knows that, you know what, Ineos are here now, and there will be accountability for performances. There will be accountability for actions off the pitch. You're not going to get away with anything anymore at Manchester United. And it's probably good that we are seeing this discipline coming in, just as we are about to unleash a crop of young talent from our academy, which is being lauded as the next best that we've had for a long time. Juve take Greenwood, and we pay for a centre-back, Bremer. No, I don't want him, Mark. Personally, I don't want any swapsy deals. Do you know what? I want to go back on this because I'm pretty certain, I talked about earlier on in the season, Getafe have a sell-on clause for Mason Greenwood, mate, that we may lose value for any sale of Mason Greenwood. They had a sell-on clause put in for Manchester United for them to actually take Mason Greenwood. That's how desperate we was at the time and how much we ballsed it up. I'm sure Getafe take a chunk of whatever we sell Mason Greenwood for, as well. I'll have to look back into that, but I've not spoke about it for a while, but I did talk about it a while ago, so you can see why we're trying to bump the price up for him, mate.
And that makes I forgot about that until you literally just said it then. I remember seeing that, thinking, how the hell have we put a selling clause?
That's Arnold for you.
Yeah, in a loan deal. I've never heard of that before, but that typical Manchester United pre-Ineos. I mean, but even if that is 5 to 10 million, again, you just have to bite the bullet and take it, don't you? That's probably why it's bumped up to 50 million then. But I agree with you what you're saying about the young players. There's a clear pathway into the first team now from the academy, which is, it always has been at Manchester United, but you've seen over the last 2 seasons the emergence of Garnacho and Mainu. Who's the next one? We saw a little bit of Wheatley at the end of the season helping out. Rasmus. The only problem I have with Ten Hag as a manager with youth players is, and maybe he put it down to injuries, I don't know, but he's over reliance on them. He's overplaying of some players, you know, for Garnacho at 19 to be playing 37 games in a row is ridiculous. Like, that shouldn't be happening at a club like Manchester United. As good as you may think he is, he's by nowhere near the finished article. Shouldn't be starting that many games at that age. You know, the development, a lot of development young players get it during this period is watching games and being off the pitch and learning how to impact a game. You know, the perfect example to use is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, how he knew on the bench he could watch a game and knew what he could do coming onto pitch to help the team. Young players need that sometimes, and being out of the team and watching and thinking, well, I could do this different, getting a chance and then doing it, rather than starting, having a bad game, getting hauled off, and then getting, you know, criticism from the fans because they're not good enough because they're too young and aren't mature enough. But, you know, it's nice that these players coming through and we can see that conveyor belt now. You know, Collier, Wheatley, Amas, all three of the big ones that we're expecting a lot from. Obviously, Camboala as well has come through. Hope if he doesn't go on loan, hoping for another good season from him. It all depends on more outgoings and ingoings and centre back, of course. But it's nice, and you know, I think we've only got, is it 9 or 10 players at the Euros, so there should be still a good mix of senior players there at the tour.
Do you reckon in that you just said there, mate, the amount of players that we have got going just goes to show how poor our squad is in a way, because we've the players that are going to be going on tour are the ones that need to take a good long look at themselves in the mirror, like you said just a few moments ago. Like, you're sat there twiddling your thumbs on your sun loungers, drinking back your little alcohol-free cocktails or whatever you're on because you're a Premier League footballer on stupid amounts of money, where the rest of your so-called friends, people you know from other football clubs, are out there representing the country. This is Manchester United. For us to have no representation in the under-21s tournament last time out, and in England's team, that is, and 2 players in the England squad this time around.
Yeah.
It goes to show, doesn't it, mate? Like, we're looking to get rid of 3 of our most so-called talented English players in Greenwood, Sancho and Marcus Rashford, and they're nowhere near the England squad. It's like how the mighty have fallen in terms of Manchester United's young academy players. I know Sancho wasn't, but again, like, these young English lads coming through, unless they're looked after, unless, like what we've said, they have that accountability, they have that template of how things should be run at a football club and how players are treated, they're just going to go by the wayside again, mate.
Absolutely. You know, you could even throw Mason Mount into that equation as well. Another English player, you know, went to was at the last World Cup.
Yeah.
You know, you talk, obviously Maguire's is through injury, so, you know, you can't really call him on that one. But, you know, you're looking at there, could have had 6, 7 players in the England squad, and we've only got 2. And then players have to look at themselves. Why are they not in the England squad? What's gone wrong? What do I need to do to change that? And I hate, you know, these stories about Rashford spending $4,000 somewhere on holiday. And you think, as me as a player, as much as that is annoying to see it, you start to think, I should be in the England squad right now. The story should be about my training. I should be doing photo shoots, you know, wearing the number 11 for England or whatever, you know, getting ready for Germany. And then here I am, you know, stories about me spending $4,000 with my friends on drinks. And it's those moments where players have to look at themselves and, you know, face those demons of what's going wrong and why they haven't been selected. And, you know, for me, there's no bigger criminal than Marcus Rashford. You know, you look at, he was in the England squad well up until the very end. I think it was the Brazil. I remember watching the England-Brazil game and he'd come on and he was, and it made me smile because it's just, I was happy, not happy, but it was almost like I could full circle that. I could see that the form wasn't just for United because he was terrible when he came on for England, and you knew. And there were stories before that Brazil game that he was in danger of dropping out of the squad. And you start to think, if you're hearing that and seeing that, which you assume he will do, that's the kick up the bum you need to start to say, well, I need to pull my socks up. For my club, that's the only way I'm going to ensure and guarantee I'm going to the Euros. Hasn't done that. Came on against Brazil, looked terrible. And ultimately, he's paid the price for that. And, you know, player at 26, with the emerging talent England have, you know, does he ever get back in the England squad? Especially if they have a great Euros and actually go and win it. Does he ever get back in the team? And, you know, ultimately another poor season and another bad attitude has cost you maybe your England career.
Oh, that is it. Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. Petulance. disobedience, just the arrogance. I think is the one that got me the most. Like to do the Player Tribune interview in all of his bling, questioning fans where his commitment was. That finished me on Marcus Rashford. Like, that's one of our so-called greatest academy graduates who's done a lot off the pitch as well. Because of that, feels like he can actually do and say whatever he wants. And that's the painful thing in all of it. Guys, please give the video a like. Almost at that 150 mark. Keep your comments coming in just before we finish up. I was done with Rashford years ago too, like Shaw, but if he's becoming more and more injury prone, then I'd sell him too. Problem is, who wants an injury prone player? Who wants a problem player? AA. Who wants an injury prone player? That's the problem we've got. I mean, other players coming back, like obviously Palestri coming back, Hannibal, I expect both of them to be flogged on because Ten Hag doesn't like them. Then you've got Altay Bayındır, probably the one I feel sorry for the most, sat on the bench for Turkey at the Euros because no one knows how good he is, because he will never get a chance under Ten Hag. So does he have to go? Is this why we're looking at Suzuki again as another goalkeeping option that we're being rumoured? Tom Heaton getting another contract? It's like, why are we spending so much time and effort and money on players that we know we're not going to use under Ten Hag? I don't even know why Bayındır came in. I feel sorry for him, mate, honestly, but there are quite a few players coming back off loan and players that really do need to look at the situation with Ten Hag now and go, I need to start planning elsewhere, mate. I'm not going to get any game time under Ten Hag. And I think that's going to come here right under the microscope as well this summer now.
Yeah, I can only assume. It must be so hard when you're coming in as a second goalkeeper, because it must be a case. I mean, the manager must have said you will get minutes, because otherwise,
what's the point?
25-year-old coming from Fenerbahce, where he's played over, I'm sure, well over 100 games for them, and played a lot for Turkey as well. You know, I know they say goalkeepers mature later and that, and can have a prolonged career, but 25, you want to be playing every single week, as every single player will want to do. So for him to come and then, you know, disrespected by the manager, massively disrespected by the manager, and whether it was player power that allowed Onana to stay, and that whole debacle again for the Africa Cup of Nations, which gets forgotten about. You know, we talk about the Rashford stuff and all the Anthony stuff and everything that went wrong last season. That was one of the worst for me, because it was either Ten Hag relenting under player power or just massively disrespecting a player he's brought in the summer. And he should have been allowed to play just that, more than that Newport County game, which he didn't do too bad in. But it was the case of it was another bad United performance. But I say we don't know how good he is, and you know, I know he played a little bit for Turkey during the season, but he's not going to start for Turkey in the Euros potentially. So, you know, again, another player that we'll look on. I'd heard rumours to Celtic apparently, and they, like I say, we have been linked with Suzuki again. Maybe that is the way, because Onana is definitely number one. We know that. No matter how
he did everything he could to keep him to get him back as quick as possible in that side, didn't he?
Yeah, but and even no matter how bad he plays, he's always going to stick with him. And you know, the manager said that about Rashford. I'll always play him until he gets it right, which is not the way you can do it. And that's one thing Ineos really need to crack down on, is this whole, you know, favourites thing. I don't know, managers will have that, but it's clear to see what we've lacked over the last 2 seasons is squad rotation, and the players allowed to have a chance when other players aren't playing bad. And we've seen that with Ahmad. I think Ahmad's the perfect example of when you give a player a chance, he will do better than the players that you're persisting with when they're playing terrible. And that has to be all over the pitch. Suzuki's, you know, seen as a great talent, emerging talent. I would like it. I think Bayındır should go and play 26 now or whatever, and should be looking to play every single week, which you say that about a lot of players that are happy to sit on the bench. And go and get a younger keeper, because Onana's, 27, 28. I would like to see a younger keeper come through that we can see go in straight from him once he decides, or we decide to let him go.
Yeah, that's it. We'll see what happens with these players. Maybe that's where we can grab some money in as well. But yeah, just to go over everything, we're talking about the players that are going to get away with it. We don't think Rashford is going to be sold, simply because we're getting rid of Greenwood, we're getting rid of Sancho. There are bigger problems for the club. Never mind the team. Rashford is a problem for the team, in my opinion. But yeah, the latest is that an agreement has been made on personal terms with Mason Greenwood and Juventus. So we'll see how that one develops over the coming days. Maybe that will be the first bit of money coming into Manchester United. But don't forget, in United's wisdom, we added a 20% sell-on clause in Getafe's loan deal for Mason Greenwood. So if Greenwood is sold, they get 20% of whatever fee United sell him for. Only in a world of Manchester United, when you loan a player out, can you get a deal like that negotiated? Oh my God, Richard Arnold, this is why you are no longer in a job, and you, Murto, as well. Unbelievable. But yeah, that pretty much rounds everything up we're talking about today. Double A, absolute pleasure. Cheers for coming on, mate.
Oh, mate, any time you want me on, I'm happy to come here, mate.
Everyone loves you in the chat, mate. And I'll drop a link to Double A's channel in the comment section afterwards as well, guys, so you can check out what he's up to. But that's it, guys. Cheers for the super chats. Everyone involved, everyone in the live chat as well. Thank you so much. And we move on. I'll be back later on this evening, as always, with updates on everything going on. As expected, news is circulating very fast right now. But that's it for today, guys, so far. Thank you, and I'll see you all later on. Like, share, and subscribe.